Hello and welcome to another Caseware webinar. Today's webinar is all about iXBRL in Accounts Advanced, and we're going with an intermediate level for today's webinar. My name is James Wright. I'm an education and media technician. I'll be organising today's webinar, and our host for today doing the main presentation is Tom Jeffrey, one of our education and media technicians as well. Jump onto the next slide there. If you do have any questions at any point during the webinar, you can use the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen as shown in that GIF on screen. We will aim to answer all questions if we can at the end of today's webinar. There will be a Q&A session. But if there's something that's relevant at that point in time, I'll jump in and ask it to Tom if there's a nice section for it to go in. Just so you're aware that this webinar is also being recorded, so we will provide the recording normally a couple of days after this is released. So yeah, you'll be able to find that on our YouTube channel, and also the help site. We'll go over that a little bit later for you. Now, jumping on to the next slide there, I'll hand over to Tom to run through the agenda for today.
Thanks, James, and thanks everyone for joining us. We've got the agenda here, which, as you can see on the screen, and actually we've got a question that's already come in, and I'm just going to answer it very quickly because it fits in quite nicely to our webinar today, which is, will Caseware be adding an option to file amended accounts electronically? And yes, we will be adding that. We have added it, so it's something that we're going to be showing you. We'll show you how to activate that within the set of accounts as part of this presentation. So as James said, we're looking at iXBRL and Accounts Advanced. We're going to do a little bit of an introduction just for those of you that aren't familiar with the processes involved. And then we're also going to be looking at the auto tagging process, a brief example of an area of the accounts that you would be manually tagging, and then we'll go through and make sure that everything's ready for generating the iXBRL instance document, which we're going to do as well. It is a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the processes today. We've got up to 45 minutes. That's including any questions that we'll try and fit in as many of those as we can at the end during a Q&A session. And anything that we don't cover, or anything that we cover a bit quickly, or if you have any additional questions, please do let us know. We'll point you in the right direction for additional guidance. And as I say, we'll try and answer as many questions as we can live during the session. So I have got some slides, not many slides, but I'm just going to very quickly go over some theory, and then we'll jump into a file. So iXBRL, if you're not aware, stands for Inline Extensible Business Reporting Language. Effectively is a format of XBRL that is both machine and human readable, so that allows us to submit it electronically for it to be read by the systems, for example, Companies House system, HMRC, that kind of thing. So we're going to go on to the next slide here and just look at some key terminology. Tags. So these are tags we're going to be applying to certain data points within the financial statements. Majority of them in our Caseware file are applied automatically, and they are just identifying those data points for filing purposes. And we will be applying those tags for the auto tagging process. But as I say, we've got a manual tagging example that we're going to be showing you as well. Taxonomies is, so your taxonomy is your library of tags, and that will vary depending on the type of engagement that you're preparing and your jurisdiction, that kind of thing. So we've got some UK taxonomies today, but there are, for example, Irish taxonomies, we've got charity, IFRS, that kind of thing. So there's a huge number of different taxonomies available for different types of engagements. Today, we're going to be focusing on UK. And then a context is providing detail within a tag. So, for example, the period that it applies to. We're going to be talking about active period for the majority of the tags today. So that is a tag that applies to the full period as opposed to perhaps a fixed point in time. So, for example, balance sheet tags would usually be active period end date, and then we have active period for perhaps your P&L or any other disclosure that is relevant for the entire period. And then we've just got a few additional ones here. So dimensions and type dimensions. So a dimension is where we're adding additional levels of detail for a tag if required. So, for example, in our training material, one of the examples that we give is if you're tagging a movement in fixed assets, so the cost of addition tag provided in the taxonomy will need a context. That firstly explains the period, current or prior period, but also a dimension to express the appropriate fixed asset class. That information is available in our Getting Started guide, by the way, if you'd like it for reference, which you can make available for you after the session. Type dimension is adding a further level of detail. So unlike explicit dimensions where the breakdown in taxonomy is known and listed, typed dimensions are used when the breakdown structure and content is unknown or infinite. So for example, when tagging the individual breakdown of administration expenses. The example of a typed dimension that we're going to be using today, which I'll show you a bit later on, is tagging a country of incorporation and specifying via a typed dimension that it is UK. Numeric units. So we have numeric units here for any tags where that is relevant. So for example, currency, the tags that we're going to be applying today have no unit of measure because the majority of them are text, but you do have options there for numeric units. And then right at the end, we're going to be generating an instance document. On the right there, you can see a representation of an instance document that has been exported with review functionality. This effectively comes out as almost like an interactive PDF where you can hover over your cells there. So your different data points that are tagged, and it will give you details about each of those tags. So that's the end of the slides. You'll be pleased to know. I'm just going to pause my screen share while I open up my Caseware file, and we'll jump straight in. So let's just share my screen, and hopefully you'll be able to see my case view. Thanks, James. So we've got our file here for it's untagged limited. So we just need to apply our tags for this file. And we just, first of all, we'll be going to the completion section of the wizard and making sure that we have certain selections made correctly before we proceed on to tagging. So we've made sure that we've got full statutory accounts because that's applicable for this engagement. Make sure that we're not in our draft accounts. We've set it to final. We also want our signatories and our printed dates in place before we can go to the next bit. Filing with regulatory bodies, we would select that if we were filing with Companies House. We're going to be going through an HMRC example today. We're not actually going to go through the filing process, but we're going to go through the tagging in preparation for filing. And we've got that set for client retention. You can also use this lock updates option, and you can put a date in there, and that will completely lock it for being able to go into the background or take any updates, that kind of thing. Actually, having the printed dates here is going to prevent things like knowledge library updates being applied. And of course, any updates that you would want to apply, you would be opting to take, or you'd be opting out if it was offering them. You wouldn't do that automatically. So we've got our dates in here as well. We've also got our signatories at the bottom. So we'll open up our accounts. And we can see that we've got our little lock in the top right here, in the end of our blue ribbon, which is just confirming that we have the dates in and that it's locked. We've also got a confirmation here that we haven't tagged this file yet. And you can also confirm that we haven't done anything with tagging because this says select taxonomy over here on the taxonomy dropdown. If you'd already applied something, then there would be a taxonomy already selected there. So the first thing we are going to do is use this dropdown to select the taxonomy that we want to use. Now we would ordinarily support the latest taxonomy and a previous one. We didn't have a 2022 in Caseware. So we've got the 2023, which is what we're going to be using today. And as you can see, we do actually have two versions of the 2021. And that's because previously you would manually select whether you are tagging your detailed profit and loss, whether you've got one in there or not. Of course, whether you would be filing with the DPL is depending on how you're filing, but you would be making that decision whether you want to tag it or not. With the latest taxonomy, that decision is taken care of for you by Caseware. So if you've got your DPL turned on in your accounts preparation table, it will tag it. If you haven't, then it won't. So we're going to select the 2023 taxonomy. That's going to load it into the file. So that's going to get all the tags ready for us so that we can apply it. And the next step we're going to do when that's ready is look at the auto tagging process. So that's loaded in nice and quickly. And we're going to go to the apply tags option under the iXBRL tab on the blue ribbon. And this is going to apply the majority of the tags in the file, providing that you haven't customized too much, will be automatically applied, automatically tagged. And that's going to give you the minimum requirement based on the standard content that's in the file. So I'm going to select apply tags.
Hi, Tom. We just had a question come through. If the question is, how do you remove the detailed P&L tags if you've already, if you have a detailed P&L but don't need it? So using and specifically using the 2023 tags option.
You can remove the tags, although it wouldn't be necessary. You'd have a couple of options if you were wanting to file without DPL. You could either go to the accounts preparation table and turn that disclosure off, or if you're going to be filing, for example, with Companies House and that DPL is not required, then you'll just get a prompt for your information that won't be included in the filing process, so they'll be omitted. So it's not, you don't need to remove the tags. It's not going to prevent you from being able to file. They just won't be relevant.
Thank you.
So it's just finishing up checking all the tags to make sure that they've been correctly applied. And when that's finished, we'll go on to the review functionality, which will be where we can see where all of those are applied. In terms of the question there about DPL and tagging and not tagging and including it and not including it, we do have additional guidance on our help site, and we can provide a Q&A and a useful links document which will accompany the recording when we publish that for you.
Great. While we wait there, Tom, just a quick question. If you've already tagged, say, a cell on the accounts, and then you were to say unlock the accounts and change that data, say it was a director's name, would you then have to apply the tags or to get that information to pull through correctly, or is that information automatically pulled through onto a tag that's already been tagged?
Okay, so providing that you're not fundamentally changing the tag, what needs to be tagged, then you wouldn't need to reapply the tag. So for example, if you're changing the name, but the tag is still relevant, it's just that you're changing the data, then you wouldn't need to reapply the tag because the value is going to be exported when you generate the iXBRL. So that's absolutely fine. If you were changing the tag, if you were changing the data in that data point to something completely different, so it wasn't the director's name, for example, then that's when you'd need to change the tag. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
Excellent timing, because that's finished tagging. So we are going to revisit this a bit later on, but just very quickly, we're going to use the review tag functionality here. Now, at this point, we've only applied the auto tags. We haven't applied any others. So we should only see one type of highlighting, which is the light green here in my case, although you can change the color, and I'll show you how to do so a bit later on. You can see here, this is the green cells there. That's indicating the auto tags and the standard auto tagged content. So you can see throughout the accounts here. So you use that review function just to check where those tags are being applied. Next to that, you've got the clear the tag highlighting. And then before we go further in the process, we're actually going to jump to looking at some manual tagging. And this is going to be via the controlling party note. Now, there's a few areas in the accounts that don't get don't get auto tagged, because they will vary so much between different sets of accounts. It's not something that we can sort of predict with a standard set of tagging. So for example, controlling party note, related party transactions, we've got a couple of other areas as well. Of course, any custom content that you're adding in. So if you're creating your own notes, for example, they would require manual tagging as well. But in this example, I've got my controlling party here. Now, what you'll see when you start your file is a blank text, input text area. So you won't see this here to begin with. You'll be adding in the text. I've done a little bit of work before the webinar to add in some cells for the bits that we want to tag. We're just going to focus on these top 2 paragraphs today. Now, I'm not going to go through the process of adding in those cells, but we will provide links to guidance on how to get those in. So we're just going to focus on the actual tagging rather than the preparing of the notes, but we do have some specific guidance on controlling party for getting these in. Effectively, you'd be going into your enable editing and then inserting a cell for you to then add in the relevant data points within those cells. So as we can see here, we've got a tag for our immediate parent. We've got the ultimate parent undertaking, and then we've got a cell here for our parent undertaking of the smallest group, including their address. And then we've got this blank cell in the middle, which I'll explain in a bit more detail once we get down to that part of the note. But the first thing we're going to do is select the cell for the first tag that we need. And then we'll go up to our tools in the top left, very top left. And then we've got iXBRL and then tags. It's opened on my other screen, of course. Now, what you can do here, because this is, you can resize this window, of course, but if you want a bit more space, then you could go to, I'll just need to close that, but you can go to view in the top left. You can minimize your document map. We can also use the up arrow here in the very top right to minimize our ribbon, just to give us a bit more space. I'll go to tools again, open up tags, and then you'll see this window here confirming the taxonomy that we're using. So this is the one that we loaded in earlier. So if you go to this tags menu and there's nothing here, that's just confirming with you that you haven't loaded in your taxonomy. That's fine. So that's the one that we want to use. We'll select OK. And what you'll see is this window here. And you'll see that also it's circling the cell that we want to tag just to confirm where we are. Now, initially, this will be grayed out, and that's confirming that there's no tag applied. So first of all, we've got it grayed out, so there's no tag applied, but also you can see all of our tags here are all expanded and possibly a bit unwieldy and difficult to navigate. So you can use these, the minus and plus on the left to minimize, maximize, but actually a little tip is if you hold down the shift key and then minimize the very top and then expand it again, you can see all of the subsections have been collapsed. So it's just a bit easier for you to navigate around. Now, we don't need these entity information tags. We're going to use this roles drop down at the top. And these roles effectively are different collections of tags for different purposes within the financial statements. The majority of our tags that we're going to be adding manually are outside of the primary statements. So in this case, because I've got an FRS 102 file, I'm going to go to my 302 section. That's for notes and detailed disclosures. If, for example, you are on an FRS 101 file, then that would be 301. But notes and detailed disclosures is the collection of tags that you need. And again, this is all expanded. So I'm going to tidy this up, hold my shift key down and select that very top left minus to collapse everything and then open it up again. Now, for this example, for the controlling party note, we're actually looking for tags that are under this related parties section. We'll expand that. And then we've got the relationship between entity and parents. So we're actually just going to work our way down the first few of these. And this is the name of the parent entity is this tag here at the top. And if we select the tag, we've got the tag button in the top left. And now that gray highlighting's disappeared. That's confirming with us that the tag's been applied. That tag is applied now. So I could close this window. I could move on to something else and it's going to remember. So we don't need to select OK or anything like that or save. There's no need for any of that. And we now have these options at the bottom available to us. Our context, as we were talking about earlier. So this is giving you more detail around the tag. Currently, it's set to date of audit or accountant's report. Well, that would be a fixed date. We don't want to apply that to this tag because the Tagged Holding Company Limited was the parent throughout the period. So we're going to use this drop down here and we've got lots of different contexts. We just need active period at the top there. That's the second one down. There are other active period tags available, and they are for providing further disclosure for tags where that is required. So you've got the context being the active period, and then analysis, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, for example. That's your dimension, which is additional detail if required, and all of that guidance for what is required is provided via the FRC. But we're just going to go with active period for this one. And then, as we were mentioning earlier, with the units of measure, this is a text cell, so we don't need to worry about unit of measure. We'll leave that as no units of measure. So we've done all of that. Again, we don't need to press save or OK or anything like that. If I was to click onto a different tag and go back to that one, it's remembered where we were. So I'm now going to go down to our ultimate parent undertaking, which is tagged PLC. And again, we just select the next one down and then select tag, and it's remembered our context and our numeric from the previous tag, which is fine. We can leave that as it is. Now on the next tag, we've got our parent undertaking of the smallest group, and we can see we've highlighted, Caseware's highlighted 2 lines there. That's merely because it's the tag actually spreads across 2 lines, so it jumps to the next one down. That is the one tag we're looking at. So we're going to leave this section that we were in here and go down to this one here, parent of smallest group in which results are consolidated. We're going to expand that section there, and then we've got the name tag here. And again, we'll just follow the same example. So we'll select tag, and then we're happy with the active period and the known unit of measure. So there's a bit of a pattern here. You can see a lot of these are following the same principle. Now, this is the odd one out. Now, again, FRC does provide guidance on how to apply and report on certain tagged information and apply certain tags. For this particular one, we were not going to be putting the United Kingdom inside a cell. We're actually using what we call a display-only cell here. Again, we've got further guidance on getting that set up. But this is a cell where it's called display only, or we set it as display only, because it will only appear, as you can see it there, on the face of the accounts. When you print the accounts, it will, well, I'll show you. We'll go to the print preview. It won't give you a nasty space. So incorporated in the United Kingdom, in the second paragraph there of controlling party, it's not going to give you a nasty space. You're not going to see the cell either. So this is just for us for display only when we're looking at the face of the accounts. So I've just closed my print preview and just waiting for it to catch up with me. But what we need to do here is we need to go to the we need to add a typed dimension to the tag. I'm just going to pause my screen share for a moment. There we go.
We don't have any questions in at the moment, but just a quick reminder to everyone that there is a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. So feel free to use that if you do have a question.
Thanks, James. James and I, of course, don't like awkward silences, so that was welcome while I was trying to sort out my file. So what we're going to do here is we're going to apply a typed dimension, because Caseware knows that we need to specify, should I say, we need to disclose the country of incorporation. It doesn't know which country it is. So we've got our cell highlighted, and we've got our country in which parent of smallest group is incorporated. So what we're going to do here is right click and go to new dimensional context. A lot of these windows are going to appear perhaps slightly intimidating. Don't worry, because a lot of these options we don't need to touch. And again, this is included in the guidance that we have for you, so we can give you a step-by-step, a written step-by-step. And also we have a video on it, I believe, a quick vid. So don't worry about the top half of this. Don't worry about this role or primary item, or these scenario dimensions, or most of these selections down the bottom here, in fact. The only one that we're worried about is countries and regions. So in the value cell, or value column, sorry, we'll select here and use the drop down. This isn't in alphabetical order, but the little tip is if you use the first letter, keep hitting the first letter until you get to the one that you want. So I need United Kingdom. So I'll keep hitting U until I get to United Kingdom. And then we are going to select OK. So we're on our way to creating our new dimensional context. And we're going to call this one Country of Incorporation UK. So under the name, Country of Incorporation UK. So
Just
that's what.
Quick question on the name there, Tom. Sorry to interrupt. But does it need to be case sensitive and completely specific to how you've written it there, or does that not matter too much?
So this is really just for you to identify. So there's no. Thanks for the question, by the way. This is just for you to identify within your list of contexts. It's not. There isn't a prescribed naming convention. So this is just for you to identify. We're just giving it a nice descriptive name there. So country of Incorporation UK. And then we don't need to worry about the scenario option here. Period is fine for active period, and it is applicable to the full period. Now, we've got a couple of cells here that we do need to populate, but it's a simple case of copy and paste. So we can go to one of the other examples here, and we can see we've got our scheme, which we're going to copy and paste in here. Now, the scheme will push through to the correct web address for either HMRC or Companies House. So that's important to have that in there. And then we've got our identifier, which we're again going to copy and paste. And that is to, the identifier is to pull the company number from the wizard. So it's important to have those two in there so that they are correctly reported within that tag. So we've done everything we need to do there, and we can select OK. So what we can now do is we've got the tag highlighted, we've got the cell highlighted, so we can select tag. Now it's remembered our active period from before, which we're not going to use in this case. So we'll expand our context menu, and this is nice and easy because it's right at the bottom. So the last one that you've created will be right there, Country of Incorporation UK. And again, it's no unit of measure. So that's our tag applied. And the last tag that we have available in this disclosure is the address. And that's an easy one. So we'll go down to address of parent or of smallest group, and then tag. Now it's remembered our last one, which was our Country of Incorporation UK context, which we don't want. So we'll go all the way back up to the top and we'll select active period again. So we have tagged everything that we wanted to tag today within our controlling party note. And we're going to select OK.
Just a note on a question on rolling forwards, Tom. So after you've gone through and done all this tagging, next year's file, what will happen to the tags in that scenario?
So it will roll forward the notes that you, or if you've populated this note, there's a couple of ways that you can bring it in next year. You will need to effectively go through this process each time, each period. But what you can do is you can create your own note. So this standard controlling party note disclosure here is provided by Caseware via the accounts prep. What you can do is you can go to note and you could add in your own extra text note. You could populate it. You could add your cells in using enable editing. You could add your tags in and you could save that out. Then what you could do is share it between files. You could also share it between colleagues. And then what you could do in the next file is turn off the standard disclosure and then just add in your custom note. That's going to save you a lot of time. That's certainly advice that we would give if you're preparing multiple sets of accounts where you're going to be using the same tags.
Thank you. And maybe something to be wary of is, if a disclosure changes, like obviously this note could change in the future. So you might want to just put yours, add your note in side by side with the default one for that year, just to double check it.
Thanks, James. So we're going to go on to, that's the manual tagging part. I'm just going to turn my document map back on. The manual tagging part covered, but as I say, we can provide additional guidance for you after the webinar, and certainly Please do submit your questions if you have any regarding what you've just seen. But we're going to go back to our iXBRL menu or tab at the top on the blue ribbon. And just going to revisit this review tags option because I can highlight to you how those manual tags are going to appear differently within the controlling party note. So we've got our auto tags in the light green, and this sort of olive green color is indicating our manual tags. Those are the standard colors that are provided in the default color scheme. You have got the color picker here in the top right. So we've got our standard set here. You can choose between these preset colors. So if you have a preference for different colors, or perhaps from an accessibility point of view, you have difficulty in identifying certain colors, then you have these presets here. Or you could go to the colors at the top and you can put in any color you like. So you have the ability there to choose from this color picker. But we're just going to keep it as the standard one for now.
Perfect. And sorry, Tom, to jump in, but
sure.
If I had set my own colors for my own accessibility reasons, is that applied to the file or is that just applied to my Caseware installation? So if another colleague came into this file, they wouldn't see my set of colors that I like, for example.
I believe it's for your installation, but we can provide some additional guidance for that, can't we?
Yeah, I believe it is just on the Caseware installation. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, James. So we've got we've had a look at our color picker. We're not going to go through every option here. Actually, dimensions would be if you needed to create another type dimension, and we've kind of covered that in the manual tagging. But again, further guidance is available. Diagnostics is a handy tool here for checking what's going on in the file with all of your tags. So we haven't got a particularly varied set of tags in this file, but if you had created your own, if you had removed some or you changed some, then they're going to highlight here. As you can see, we've confirmed what taxonomy we're using. We've got over 8,000 of those standard auto tags that are included, and those are updated regularly. So when we release our EPAC updates, we would ordinarily include particularly mandatory tags as are updated within those EPAC releases. You can apply mandatory tag updates without worrying about affecting any of the content in your files. So I know that it can be a little bit, you can be a bit apprehensive. We can all be a bit apprehensive to take updates to our files when they're in progress. Mandatory tags are one of those functionality tags. They're not affecting your content. So you can take those without worrying about something changing. And then you can go to, for example, we'll go to our custom additions here. So I'll select that, and then it's going to give you a breakdown of the tags that we have applied. Again, you've got missing, changed, library additions, if there's any others that have been added via a different method. Save your diagnostics report. You can do that if you want to, if you've got lots of tags that you want to review. So we're going to, I'll just remove my highlighting of those and go to the generate iXBRL option here. Now today we're going to go through an HMRC submission, or not actually go through the submission, but we're going to get it ready for a HMRC submission. You've got your quick diagnostics report here just to say whether it's passed. So that will flag up if there's any issues with the export. So we can select next. And we've got two folders here. The white folder there is to specify default location for your HTML file, for your instance document. We haven't got that set up here at the moment. And then the blue folder there is if you want to select somewhere manually. So I'm going to go with my desktop, and then I'll call it webinar test. And that's going to save my HTML file there. You have got the option to export numeric items with 0 balances. It doesn't do that by default, but if you'd like to, you can do so. Now, in order to file electronically, we want to leave this bottom option unticked, but you can generate a version of an instance document with review functionality. And that is where you'll then be able to open it up and interrogate the different tagged content for the taxonomy and what tags have been applied. We're going to leave that unticked for this, and then I'll select the little cloud icon at the bottom. And what we'll see in a sec is a review of the tags that have been applied. And you can, if you need to, you can sort of, after that report's appeared, you can close it and you can start the process again if there's anything you've noticed that's out of the ordinary. So you can apply the tags again, generate the iXBRL again, that kind of thing. And applying the tags again would not affect the custom content that we've tagged. It's only going to be reapplying auto tags. So you won't need to then go through that controlling party segment again. So we are just going to wait for that to finish. It shouldn't take too much longer. This process of generating the export will vary, a bit like the tagging process will vary depending on the size of the file. This isn't a particularly large file, this one, but if you have got a larger file, it will take longer. Thankfully, we've got a successful export status, and this will confirm with you a set of compulsory tags or mandatory tags. You can view all of these facts in more detail, so we can scroll through and just check all of those if we're that way inclined. You've also got the option to save those facts to CSV. And in this case, because we're filing with HMRC, we've got the option for an HMRC test submission. Now, I mentioned there about compulsory tags, mandatory tags. Now, we have a section right at the bottom, and this is an error that comes up regularly when you're filing electronically. We've got this section at the bottom, which I've now ticked, and that is for mandatory tags. Of course, we haven't actually filed electronically yet, so you will get a prompt if this is ticked, and it shouldn't be. So this is a section here at the bottom that is talking about your mandatory tags printing or not printing effectively. So if you wanted to print your accounts and you had this box ticked, sorry, you had this box unticked, you might have a blank space at the end of your accounts when you're printing them. And that's because Caseware is recognizing that there's content there. It wouldn't actually print the tags, as you can see them there, but it would recognize that there's content there and that it would manifest itself as its space when you're printing. So for the purpose of printing, you want to tick this, and that effectively skips that section altogether. If you're electronically filing, then you do. If you're exporting and electronically filing, then you want to untick that. So just follow that instruction there. So that might be something that pops up. A marker that is an issue is that if you're exporting and it's saying that there are mandatory tags missing. Revisiting the question we had right at the beginning of the webinar in terms of filing amended accounts, you can see at the bottom of our mandatory tags here, we've got this new one, or it hasn't been there, it wasn't there recently. That is amended version of accounts, and currently that's unticked, and it's confirming that it's the original set. Now, if we go to our wizard, so let's say we filed electronically and we want to amend them and file it again. We go to our accounts format and then disclosure format here. And then right at the bottom, we have amended version of accounts. So we'd tick here to confirm that it's amended version that we're filing, go back to our accounts, and we can now see that that is ticked and it's confirming that it's amended. So when we generate our iXBRL, so if we're changing that, we need to generate it again. And of course, apply any tags if we've changed any or we've got any new content to be tagged. Then we generate the iXBRL, and then that would confirm as part of that export that it is an amended set of accounts.
We have had a question come in. The question is, how do we confirm the mandatory tags before this stage? So I believe that's probably how do we confirm that the content's there, maybe?
So confirming that we have that you have the correct, or I guess we'll start with confirming that you have the tags correctly applied, or you have the latest version of the tags. So first of all, you'd want to make sure that you're on the latest EPAC, and that's something that we can link to in our useful links just for how to check that you're on the latest EPAC. And then under your tools here, appreciate this is a locked set of accounts, so we wouldn't be able to apply any updates, but we'd go to tools, and then we'd go to KL update, and then select yes. Now, if you've got the latest set of course, it's not going to do that for me because I need to take the dates out, which is a rookie error. We'll go to the completion section, take the dates out, go back to the accounts, and then we'll do our KL update. Now, if you've got the latest version, if you've got the latest EPAC installed and you haven't taken the mandatory tags update, then it will list here. So when you go to Tools KL Update, it will say mandatory tags. These four are always here. These toolbar, style bar, and headers are always there because you can effectively take those updates again just to refresh those sections. But mandatory tags will appear in there if you haven't got them, and then you'd make sure that you're applying those. Again, you can apply those without fear of updating any content, and then just make sure that when you're going to your iXBRL tab on the blue ribbon, and then you're after you've taken your updates, if you need to take them, you'd apply the tags again, and then the mandatory tags are just going to be those auto tags that are highlighted in green. And then make sure that this box is unticked. If you follow all of those steps, then it's unlikely that you're going to receive an error to do with a mandatory tag. There might be detail that is missing. So, for example, we do often see the name of the senior statutory auditor is one that comes up quite often, which is a mandatory tag. The tag is there, but the actual name isn't, and that's something that you enter in the wizard. But if you follow all of those steps, then the indicator that the mandatory tags aren't correctly applied will be on that export status report. It will highlight them there for you, and you'll see any listed in red. And then we have a bit of a cheat sheet on our help site for identifying what they relate to and how to correctly apply them. So hopefully that answers the question for you. But as I say, we can provide some more detail afterwards. Just looking at the time, we've got a few minutes left. Have we got any other questions coming, James?
No questions for the time being on there. Just a quick reminder that the Q&A button is at the bottom of your screen there if you do have any questions in the meantime.
Excellent. Thanks very much. So that's actually brings me to the end of the content that I was going to demonstrate. I'm just going to pause my screen share and we'll get the slides back up on the screen. And I'll get James to take over.
Thank you. You got those there. Yeah, there's just that little GIF again on screen for you showing you how to ask a question. We don't have any at the moment, so we'll begin the kind of wrap-up procedure, and if any do come in, we'll jump in with those. So if we just jump to the next slide. Wonderful. So yeah, as you probably did with this one, if you do need to see any of our upcoming webinars, do just jump to our website. There's a lot of // in this, but it's caseware.com/UK/resources and /events on there. So do feel free to take a look and register for any of the next webinars that we have. A reminder that we have our social media pages. So we've got our own client-specific Caseware Client Services LinkedIn page, so do give that a follow. That's mainly focused towards the education and media side of things. So any notifications about upcoming webinars, as well as getting started guides, e-courses, that kind of thing, is pretty helpful for you there. And all of our video content is hosted on YouTube, our Caseware Client Services YouTube channel. We do have those videos sorted into playlists. So we've got playlists for all the different templates that we have, as well as a playlist specifically for webinars. So if you want to go back and take a look at any of the other webinars that we have, as I said earlier, this one will be on there in the next few days. And you will also receive, I believe, an email from our marketing team with the recording as well. So you'll get that sent to you directly. Perfect. We do have our knowledge base, which is my.caseware.com. You may be familiar with the old help site. We are transitioning at the moment, but all the articles are hosted on both of them. So there'll be the same articles on both sites there. Perfect. We don't have any other questions that have come in, so I think we're all good to wrap up. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.